Court. So now I've gotten out of a domestic violence situation. I'm still banged up, scars and what have you. Arrested, in custody, learning a lot about people that I wasn't aware of before. And my attorney kept reassuring me that they're going to have to dismiss the charges. It gets closer and closer to trial, and some of the information is pretty damning against my ex. So there was a series of hearings. The first is since he had some issues, they gave him a court-appointed attorney to go with a private pay because he came from a family of money, so they had already hired him one. And then they gave him a court-appointed attorney as well. So he had 2 attorneys going in. Then they gave him an immunity contract on 11 felonies, including 2 assaults on me, including the assault of me that day, so he could testify since he was guilty of assault, and he had a bunch of firearms that he wasn't supposed to have from his previous domestic violence convictions and assaults. So already this is looking pretty weird. Then the judge ruled that his talking about using cocaine was inadmissible. She said it was too damning. His history of violence and beating against women was inadmissible. She said it was too damning, that the jury could be swayed to know that he had a history of beating up on other women. So now we're looking at my court case is we're not supposed to use the drugs. We're not supposed to use his history of abuse. He's got an immunity contract. He can say whatever he wants. The assault on me that day was covered. So this isn't looking real good. My 60-day rights is coming up, and the state still had not disclosed any evidence. So I think my trial was set for Monday, and Friday night they gave my attorney a great big stack of papers. So we're in court Monday morning, and my attorney's arguing they have to dismiss this. You can't just give me the evidence the night before trial, basically. There's no way I could be prepared. And the judge ruled that it was okay, that it wasn't malicious, that it was just mismanagement. And so that's fine. And that we can proceed, or I would have to get an extension. Hobson's choice. It's not legal for the state to withhold evidence. Anybody seen My Cousin Vinny? They are required, if they have evidence, to give it to the defense attorney so they can prepare the case. There's a bunch of national trials going on right now, and the prosecutor handed over all of the discovery right away. So that way there's no fight over that. So in my case, they didn't, and the judge said that that was perfectly okay. She said that the prosecutors just had some mismanagement. My case got reassigned, nobody really paid attention, nobody really checked anything, so my attorney wasn't, she said that because my attorney did not compel discovery. So even though the state's required to give discovery, my attorney didn't make them do their job, so that it was negligence on my attorney's side. Pretty much everything that shouldn't happen in a trial was going on. So I gave him an extension, and the actual injury that my ex received was when I was curled up in a ball and he was attacking me, and I grabbed a little blade and I held it up and he leaned onto it. I've seen CSI, so I assumed that there would be a knife expert or someone to do the trajectory. I mean, it was just a little blade that could say what angle that the knife blade happened, and then it would be clear. It would be very obvious. I was underneath him at the time that he was injured. He had me pinned down in a ball on the floor. These things would come out, right? No. No, apparently those experts are very, very expensive. So my attorney didn't line one up because you have to pay them in advance, and I was poor. And again, they believed that the case was going to be dismissed because my ex's history of violence, drug use, was going to be dismissed because the state never disclosed any information. It was going to be dismissed, but it never was. In the pretrial hearings also, there were two officers that were primarily on the scene with me. One was a lady and one was a guy. The lady told the absolute truth in pretrial hearings, and her testimony was ruled inadmissible because it did not match with protocol. For instance, there was a question about, had I been Mirandized? Did anybody read me my rights? And she made it very clear that no, that I was taken into custody and taken to the hospital, and nobody had ever read me my rights. The other officer said, yes, I did, da 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 da. And, she's like, no, you didn't. So that came up, and so the judge ruled that her testimony was inadmissible because it didn't match with protocol procedure. So it was basically anything that could be exonerating was ruled inadmissible. But there's still some pretty good questions going on here. I was very upset. Again, I had nerve damage over 3/4 of my face, chronic migraines, in jail, freezing cold, starving, and the judge ruled that if I cried at all during trial, that she would call a mistrial, and I would have to start all over again. So a great deal of trial. I just had my hair over my face. Sorry about the camera, because I was crying. I couldn't believe it. The lies that came out of the officers, the lies that came out of my ex. He had even said that he wasn't sure. He said that I had stabbed him when I was behind or in front of him, which would have been pretty obvious. It had to have been one or the other. He didn't even know where I was at in the room at the time he was injured. I mean, I did. I was underneath him because he had me pinned down. But it was pretty bad. It was really bad. My attorney had no discovery. All of the information that should have exonerated me was ruled inadmissible. My husband had an immunity contract. Got the cops lying on the stand. And I'm just crying. And I can't believe it. I just had faith in the justice system. And it's blown away. Even the jail guards that were walking me back and forth to trial were like, how is this possible? How is this possible? The mere fact that they gave him an immunity contract on assaulting you that day clarifies the fact that he was assaulting you that day. So how they were just stunned. They could not understand how my case could get so bad and so prejudicial, I guess is the phrase. So anyway, so it goes to the jury, even though they only have partial information, and they come back hung jury. And the judge says, no, I'm not taking that. They were sent back to deliberate again. Now, under court rules, if the jury comes back with any kind of questions or any kind of ifs or any kind of anything, the defense is supposed to be notified. The judge did not notify the defense. We were not told that the jury had come back as a hung jury, and they were sent back to deliberate again. Oh, I might have not mentioned. So I was charged with third-degree assault. They offered me fourth-degree misdemeanor, but because I took it to trial, they upped the charges to first and second-degree assault. So 2 charges, same incident, same time, same moment in time when I was defending myself. So the jury was sent back. I don't remember how long it was, but it was a little while. And then they came back and they said, okay, fine. We'll give you guilty on second-degree assault, but hung jury on first degree. And the judge, without notifying the defense, without so much as mentioning anything, told them no, that she wasn't going to accept that, and they had to go back and deliberate again. So then they went back, and then again, it was a little while, and then they came back again and said, fine, guilty on first degree. So first degree and second degree, same moment in time, same incident, that's double jeopardy. Technically, the court is supposed to go with the lesser of the two. In particular, in this case, since they had to be sent back for the third time to come up with a first-degree charge, that should have never happened. But the judge charged me with both first and second degree double jeopardy. I was sentenced to 13 years. In my sentencing hearing, though, The judge was asking about this and that, victims' compensation and all of these things. And the prosecutor literally shook his head and said, no, yeah, we're not doing that. And he said out loud, where I could hear him, Your Honor, these charges are not going to stick. Because he knew that I had been unconstitutionally tried, convicted, and they were going to send me to prison. The jury instructions that I had specifically said that I was not allowed to defend myself. The prosecutor in closing arguments argued that I knew leaving an abusive man would upset him, and therefore I started the fight so that I could defend myself. Because I knew that if I left him, he would be mad and would attack me. Pretty much an unconstitutional incarceration, sentencing, trial. Believe me, I cried, and I could not believe that our justice system could be so unjust. And the judge said it was just mismanagement. Just nobody cared to look at the file. Nobody bothered investigating. Nobody checked the trajectory of the injury. Interviews, every time somebody told the truth, the judge said that it was inadmissible because it did not fit protocol. Kind of makes you wonder why they bothered interviewing anyways, if they were only going to accept things that followed procedure, regardless of if it's what procedure happened or not. So I see some of these cases that come down, the ones nationally recognized, and I have family members say, oh, but, and I'm like, yeah, I know for a fact that they do not investigate, and they do not check things out, and they will allow any kind of perjury or lies if it protects the police. So there's a theory that the cops have that they'll let the courts sort it out. They're just going to arrest everybody and the courts will sort it out. The courts, on the other hand, don't actually investigate, and they say the police knew who they were arresting, so we're just going to make that conviction stick. Now, if let's say, forgiveness for this and forgiveness for that, but one thing that I still take very, very, very large issue with is that if my arresting charge was third-degree assault, and that's what they felt at the time that I was arrested that I should be charged with, and they offered me fourth-degree misdemeanor, 2 days, time served, if I signed a paper. I think third degree is like 90 days sentence, fourth degree misdemeanor 2 days. But because I said I was innocent, they jacked my charges up to a minimum of 10 years, minimum, because I was innocent. That is what we have going on in the justice system. You have a lot of people that are arrested, and if their arresting charges are accurate, if they plea out, they can just walk out of jail. If they're innocent and they fight it, they could end up with life. So even going to prison, my first day there, the person that, they do what category are you in? You end up in receiving, all of this fun stuff. And the guy was looking at the numbers, and he went, this isn't right. Sorry. How did you get 13 years? This is double jeopardy. And he told me I should fight that. And I told him my appeal was already filed, and the double jeopardy was the minimum of my concerns, and that I would not be there for 13 years because I had faith in the justice system still. I heard some rumors that my arresting officer was sleeping with my mother-in-law, which, to be perfectly honest, I could kind of believe. I heard rumors Johnny had paid someone. I heard rumors but the truth of the matter is the judge and the prosecutor knew better, and they did it anyways because it got the case off their file load. That's court in America right now. So when you see all of these things and people are saying that there is an injustice society, I guarantee you that we have the best justice system money can buy. Just look how many poor people are being shot and killed in their beds. They get the wrong search wrong address on a search warrant, people are shot. But the rich people, they don't even get their passport taken away. They can tie things up in court for forever and forever. Um, if any poor person did half the crap these rich people are getting away with, they'd have been locked up a long time ago. There are two cases that really, really piss me off. If you go steal a car or a TV, you can end up in jail for 10 years, 15 years for theft. So why is it okay to embezzle millions of dollars from the government to practice human trafficking? Because isn't that the definition of human trafficking? Is if you go get someone from somewhere else and you tell them that they're going to have jobs and they're going to have work and things are going to be better for them, and then you take them and you basically have them kidnapped because they're believing that there's going to be a better life for them, and then you take them someplace else to suit your own means and to benefit yourself. Isn't that human trafficking? Because as far as I see in the courts, that's what people are charged with human trafficking for. And if you embezzle millions and millions of dollars from your company, you are charged with theft, of fraud, and you go to jail for that. Unless you're a rich white politician, in which case you can be a presidential candidate. Now, Mr. Orangehead has done a lot of pretty rotten things. But my line was drawn with a fraudulent charity. He's ripping off millions of people all over the country for a not charity and just spent all of the money on himself and his things. And his children were involved. Scammed, fraud across the board to raise money for a charity that he never had any intention of having a charity for. Yeah, we should have never gotten to all of these other charges. He should have already been locked up for theft a long time ago. Before we even got to this and we got to that, why is it okay for a rich millionaire, billionaire, white male to rip off half the country or to steal from taxpayers, but a poor person steals dinner and they get arrested? Yeah, we have an injustice system. We have a very, very unjust system. If a mom steals diapers and some baby food, she can go to jail. Maybe she's released the next day, but you can go to jail for stealing food for your family or diapers, but you can rip off millions and millions of people and you barely get your hand slapped or you get away with it. Yeah, we have an injustice system. In the process of being in prison, I will talk about that in another video. I read case after case after case after case. Men that kill their wives out of rage, which frequently happens when you're trying to leave. So I will definitely cover being safe when you're leaving a domestic violence situation. Men that kill their wives generally get 3 to 5 years for that. They call it manslaughter and an accident. And they serve a couple of years and then they go on with their lives. Women that defend themselves when their husband lives, like mine, you know, maybe he was banged up for a little bit, but he was off dating before I was even out of prison. Women that defend themselves get 10 to 20 years. If he dies in the defense, even though there's been a history of him hurting her and almost killing her, she can get life. Because they do like they did in my case and say that she's starting the fight and she's causing the attack so that she can defend herself. Yeah, we have an injustice system, and it definitely leans to the white, rich male. So, whose problem is that? Is it our fault for being poor? Is it our fault for being women or for being a minority? Or is it maybe that more rich people need to be held accountable for their actions?